And what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. It's time to take a dive into everybody's favorite MLS side, Inter Miami. And we are joined by our friend Daniel and Kris from the Battered Herons. How you doing, guys?
Good,
Doing
man.
great.
Perfect.
Good, man. Really happy to get you guys back on here. Love chatting with you guys. And I know Connor was looking forward to this until he was told he'll be working 100 hours a week for the next 3 months as an accountant. So he's tied up, but the show must go on. So as we will continue on in his memory, if you will, and we will talk all about Inter Miami. But before we do that, of course, we have to go to Scarf of the Week. So I don't know if you guys prepped anything. I usually ask beforehand, but I forgot this time. Do you guys got a scarf you want to show off?
You know what? It's funny because I have all my scarves in storage, but I remembered that you guys like the whole scarves thing. So I pulled out just one that they gave out 2 seasons ago. They gave these out when we had the Heartbeat kit, it's just plain. It was for
I
all
like
season
it.
ticket holders. It's very plain, but look, it's black and pink, and it's unfortunately the only thing I had that wasn't in storage.
Yeah.
And on the other side it says, "I am the heartbeat." So you know, this was their slogan a couple years ago, the season that we got Messi actually.
Oh,
So
very nice.
there you go. So
Love it.
that's my
The,
scarf.
the box that it came in was a lot nicer than the scarf itself, in my opinion. I don't have a scarf, but I do have this back phone thing free from Florida Blue that's actually been wonders. You just kind of snap it on the back and boom, there it is.
I'll give you
So,
just
no
one more
scarf.
thing that's pretty cool. Not a scarf, but I'm assuming you're into collectibles, Andrew
Yep.
and Kris. This is a cool pin
Oh, nice.
for Drive Pink Stadium. So I mean, we're not gonna be there very much longer, but I think it's pretty cool. I mean,
Like,
I'm into collectibles. I like all that weird stuff.
yeah,
Give me as
you and me
many
both.
collectibles. Yeah.
I think this is going to be the first time this has ever happened to me. I can't find my Inter Miami scarf. I don't know where it is. I've got a pile of
Oh,
scarves. It's like
you
it's
have an Inter
laying in.
Miami scarf.
I do. I have one, and it is in a pile somewhere. I don't know where it is. I looked before I went to my session. I looked through all of them, could not find them, which means it's wrapped up in another one, and I don't know where it is because
Could
usually
be.
you guys remember usually I had my wall and I just picked it off the wall.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now I don't have the wall. It's all just in a pile in the closet. But I did find pink, so. And I can never have a bad excuse to break out a scarf for Forward Madison FC from the USL One. Uh,
Wow.
Up
Nice.
the Mingos. We're always going full Mingo on the podcast, and it's a scarf from to kind of remember our time. It was like our 11th ever episode, and we interviewed the guy who came up with the I don't know if you guys remember back in the day. They had a huge snowstorm in Madison, Wisconsin, and the dude was measuring how much snow they got based on the height of a plastic flamingo, and it blew up the internet for a whole day.
I don't
And
remember that.
it was back in 2018, maybe 2019, maybe. And this thing, it snowed so much, and they were doing it's like the current snow total is quarter Mingo, half Mingo, three-quarter Mingo,
I don't remember
and
that at all.
the internet blew up when they said it hit full Mingo. It has been full Mingo, and it's been like the whole slogan. So we got that in honor.
Interesting.
So
Very
funny.
cool.
So funny. But listen,
Very cool.
we could talk about flamingos all day long, but I think it's time to little focus on Inter Miami, right? So the biggest change in this team comes on the sideline. Tata Martino is departing, and the relatively inexperienced Javier Mascherano takes charge. And I'd say that 2024 was kind of good, right? First place in the Eastern Conference, Supporters Shield, points record, Messi MVP, a run to the quarterfinals in the Champions Cup. Well, round of 16, close to Columbus in the Leagues Cup. We won't talk about the playoffs. I'm sure nobody really wants to remember any of that.
No thanks.
Yeah, that's not great. Listen, the big bald Brad Guzan said no thank you to Inter Miami's run in the playoffs, and they did finish with just one trophy. They're going to look to rebound. They're back in the Champions Cup and they're back in Leagues Cup. Guys, your thoughts on the 2024 season overall? Because I know we talked about it last year that you said two trophies was the only thing that was acceptable. They finished with one. So I kind of want to get your thoughts on this.
Well, I'll go ahead and get started. I mean, everybody was excited to get the supporter shield, but obviously it was a failure because we have the best player in the league and it was expected to win trophies, right? And we walked away with one that really doesn't matter much other than just having the most points in the season, which is nice, but after not winning the MLS Cup and having the potential to do so, it just felt like a failure. So
I agree. I agree. It was a failure overall just because they didn't win any trophies. I understand that people consider the Supporters Shield the trophy. I don't. So I felt like they were trophyless to get bounced by a team that technically wasn't even a playoff team because they were the ninth seed. I think it's a little embarrassing the way they bowed out. So I think it was all in all a failure of a season.
And that is a really good mark of like a good team is when
yes.
one trophy isn't good enough, right? So I
Yep.
think that's a really nice mindset to go in with, and it shows in their transfer window, right? They have not just kind of been like, oh, we're just going to run it back with the group and see what happens, right? They've been adding a lot. Who do you guys think is the best addition they've made so far?
I'll start. We haven't seen them yet in the preseason, but Telasco Segovia is supposed to be a 21-year-old Venezuelan that is supposed to be the player that fills in for Diego Gomez, which I know we're going to get into biggest losses in a second, but he is supposed to fill that role. Everybody describes him as a similar player, just a little bit more skilled when it comes to the ball at his feet. So I think that he might end up being the biggest addition just because he's going to fill up a hole that's it's going to be a glaring hole because people don't realize how much Diego Gomez contributed to this team. I mean, to the point where, right, he was sought after by an EPL team, Brighton, and he got sold for, I forget how many, 15 million or whatever it was. So, Telasco Segovia, because he's supposed to fill that role and everybody is saying he is the best product to come out of Venezuela in a very long time, I think he was the biggest addition.
I was actually, I think for the MLS, true MLS, diehard fans, they're probably going to go with somebody like Fafa. He's been sort of a journeyman within the league, I guess, and he's done well wherever he's played. But I think I'm going to go with also another player that we haven't seen play on the pitch that we just recently acquired, Maxi Falcon, who's an Uruguayan center back. One of the gleaming, I guess, quote unquote, holes that the team had was defensively, even though we weren't really the worst defensive team. We were, I think, within the top 5, top 6 defenses in the league. It's just subjective because we happen to have the best offense in the league. So adding a player like Maxi Falcon, who is a rough and tough center back, who's vertical, who can be able to run the pitch faster than Sergey Kristoff with cement feet. It's something to definitely look forward to, especially when we have Toto Aviles back there. That's definitely going to be able to help in terms of height wise.
I wanted to just share a note on the Venezuelan player, I believe, Telasco, right? Telasco is how I pronounce that. So my
Yeah.
buddy
Yes.
that I went to college with is from Venezuela. He actually grew up, hanging out with Josef Martinez. Basically, was
Oh,
him and
okay.
his brother were tight. So I asked him about the, what he thinks about Telasco, Segovia, and he said he hasn't seen the hype around him, but that's because in the national team, when he plays in the national team, they play him out of position. So when he
Mhm.
plays in his club team, he looks
He
much
plays.
much better than he plays with the national team. So I'm excited. He said he's really excited to see how he does there because if they play him properly, like they're playing him as a 6 in Venezuela, where
Yeah.
he's actually or like a defensive minded wide player 7-Eleven. If they play him as a 10 properly, he thinks he can break out. So I'm really excited to see how they unlock that from him.
I could see that.
We had someone on that covers the Portugal league because that's where he's coming from.
Mhm.
And they told us that he is a true box to box midfielder, a true number 8 because he can give you some on the defense and a lot on the offense also, a lot in the attack. So that and I think that that's where he's going to kind of just slot in. We're probably playing a 4-4-2. He's probably going to be playing that left mid position where he's kind of just a box to box midfielder. And like you said, hopefully playing true to his position will help a little more than he's been because I've heard similar in Venezuela.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. So I did want to also highlight Lujan. I think that he's like the Wagnant replacement, where because he's on loan, and I don't know if they'll execute that long term, but for a long term solution, because I believe he's a U22 signing. I may be wrong on that.
I don't think he's a
Well,
U22.
Lujan is actually a pretty decent acquisition,
Hmm.
just based on the simple fact that he's going to be able to easily compete against Chelo Weigand for that right back position because it isn't granted his position. He's just been consistently not bad, not good.
Hmm.
So, like, I mean, if you're pretty decent, you clock in and you clock out. That's like the definition of cello.
Right.
So he's definitely going to have an opportunity to win that position outright if he busts his butt enough.
And Luhan turns
Yes.
24 in 2 months, so
I was about to
he's
say,
not
yep.
gonna be.
So I just confirmed that too.
Yeah.
There was that not a U22, but still like good experience coming in, and I think that
Hmm.
he can definitely compete in that role, like you guys were saying. Like it gives
Yes.
you a little bit more competition in there. So I like that. I like that move too. But that means players have also, and we've hinted at it already, players have had to move on. Your thoughts on the biggest losses so far this offseason?
I think me and Chris will both agree that Diego Gomez is the biggest loss by far. I mean, you had him playing left wing, which is technically out of position because he was a box to box eight, but because he was slotted up at left wing, it's not like we always had like an extra midfielder in that 4-3-3 because he would
Hmm.
constantly track back and cover the space left behind by Jordi Alba when he pushed up so high. So Diego Gomez far and away the biggest loss. And if you really think about the starting 11, he is the only starter that we really lost outside like have that's it, right, Chris? Like we didn't really lose any other starter.
Well, I mean, we lost Christoph, who was a starter
But
in
he
the
wasn't a
beginning of the
starter.
season,
Yeah, but he
right?
but by now then.
Aside from that, we didn't lose a critical starter. I'll give you another name, which is not Diego Gomez, even though Diego Gomez is just catastrophically way more of an important loss to us than any other player combining all of them together. But one loss that I think I don't want to say it hurts because I don't think too positively of him, but a lot of fans were awaiting what he could bring to the table, and that's Facundo Farias. He was a player that was injured for quite some time. He got injured in our preseason tour against, I don't know if it was Al Hilal, Al
No, it
Nazir,
was El
whoever.
Salvador. It was the very first preseason game last year.
I remember
That's
that.
right. And he was a player that was expected to start in the left wing if it wasn't for the injury. And so coming back from the injury, he was expected to retake that, but then he gets shipped off to an Argentine team, I believe. I'm not sure. I have to double check that. But
Yes.
he's a player that I believe, I guess, if you're just wanting to sort of, I guess, fantasize about what could have been, he's, I guess, a player that would be a pretty decently terrible loss, I guess.
Yeah, and I think for me, and I agree with both of those, but I think for me, one of the ones that's going to get overlooked because you do still have a pretty good player in front of him, but Leo Campagna moving on, Suarez isn't going to be there
I forgot
forever.
about him.
Man, I thought Leo was going to be the guy. Like Suarez, goes through. Look at what he did when Suarez was out. Like he
I can't
carried.
wait. I can't wait to see him in New England. I can't wait because he's finally going to have an opportunity in New England. Danny is not a big fan of him. My son is a colossal fan of him.
Really.
So, yes.
Oh man, like I said, there's no, and again, and at the moment, and I'm sure there are players you can flex. There's Misai guy or whatever, but there's no true number 9 behind Luis Suarez to back him up if something happens.
Yeah.
So to have him there, knowing like, okay, I don't need to change my entire system if he goes out or is on international or whatever. If he gets called back into Uruguay for whatever reason, having Leo there was like, okay, great. I can just throw another big target 9 up there and we can go. And he was dynamic. He scored lots of goals. And now it's like, okay, I probably need to change my system a little bit to make this work. And again, it's a lot easier to do that when you've got the best player in the history of the game to
Yeah.
do that. But it does, I do think you'll miss him a little bit when you do have all these games that you're gonna need to rotate in.
I believe
Uh,
so.
mm, I liked him as a backup striker. I thought I really was happy with him as a backup striker, but unfortunately, he was a DP player, and he wasn't producing like a DP player.
Mhm.
One, because he wasn't the starter, and then when he did start in the summer, he just didn't give you a DP production. Like he was decent, but he wasn't that guy. So I think that soured a lot of the fan base on him, just because if you're getting paid DP money and we only have 3 of those slots on a team, you kind of expect more out of him.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
he would have just been just on regular contract as a backup, I think he would have done great, and he might do great over there in New England. I don't know if Carlos Gil is going to stay, and then he's got Langoni there. So look, if with those two guys by himself, I'm sure he'll have a good season. But I wasn't too worried about him. And I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen. I guess we could put it out here. We might be replacing that Ecuadorian striker with another Ecuadorian striker, Alan Obando, I believe is his name. Also coming from the Barcelona in Ecuador side, right? Because they have a team named Barcelona in Ecuador.
Yeah.
That's where Campana also played, and they're looking into signing him. Atletico Madrid, I knew, made a bid on him. I think the Spanish transfer window closed already, so they're out of the race, and Inter Miami is still interested. So they might be looking to bring him in as the backup striker. Those are just rumblings that started today. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but
Ooh.
Time will tell.
Well, we're a little bit of a news break in here. That's not
yeah.
part of the show, but we love it. We love it anyways. We're gonna move on to this section. We did really well. We went back and checked this section last year, and it's called Player to Watch Breakout Player. We had 4 different players. All of them were fantastic. So we did really well with this last year. So we got a high bar to hit this year. But guys, give me a player to watch or somebody who's gonna break out this year as somebody who maybe we aren't expecting to be a big part of the team.
I know last year I said Noah Allen.
Yes, you did.
And we're still hoping that he finds a way to get more minutes this year because he played very well.
Mhm.
Breakout player this year. I'm going to go with, oh man, I'm having a hard time choosing between two. I'm gonna go just because so many people are down on him. I'm just gonna put him on there. I'm gonna say Federico Redondo. The fan base has completely opted out of Federico Redondo because they like Yannick Bright so much. I also love Yannick Bright, but I think Federico Redondo is going to have a stellar season, and I think he is the next one after Diego Gomez to move to the EPL or La Liga to get bought out and go play overseas. And I'm going to go Federico Redondo is that breakout guy this year.
You know, the funny thing about that is I was gonna go Yannick Bright, but the issue is that Redondo, I know he's going to consume way too much time. So it's gonna hurt Bright's chances in terms of his performance. The other player that I'll go with, which is probably the other one that Danny was thinking, is Toto Aviles. Aviles, I feel like he's gonna have a breakout season, a year of maturity, a year of learning under great players, a little bit more patience when you get older. He has, ideas and want to be able to play in bigger leagues, bigger teams, and I think he understands that his opportunity is now to showcase that, especially with Messi in the same squad with him, right?
And if anybody's watching and is not sure, Redondo is a box-to-box midfielder. Probably he's going to play a double pivot with Busquets, and Toto Aviles is a center back, just in case people listening aren't sure what
Yeah.
position they play.
Yeah, and Toto Aviles, he was essentially our, I guess you could say, rock last year because he consistently played almost every game if he wasn't, on red
Suspended.
card accumulation.
Yellow card.
Yeah, I mean, he's a player that is a player to watch out for sure, and I think that he's going to have a fantastic year this year.
That was mine last year. So I couldn't double up with it. But yeah, I remember that. I picked him because I was like, I watched him in the preseason games. I was like, oh, that dude looks solid. I'm gonna use him. And he ended up
He
being
is.
like an every out and out day guy. So I was like,
When he doesn't get one of these, for those of you listening on audio, it's a yellow card.
He led the
then
league.
He's amazing, but he racks these up like it's waters.
yeah, I do hope that Javier Mascherano kind of gets into his head like 15 minutes left in a game is not the best time to sit down in your own box as they're attacking. Like if you get that out of him, he's even higher.
Sounds
right?
like a good idea.
I do think that's a tough, it's a tough nut to crack, but I think if you get there, he's gonna be really good. This one, I feel like one of you said last year you didn't like this player, and it may be a little bit controversial, but I'm going with David Ruiz. He only had 1,000 minutes last year, and he was behind the Gomez's and the Busquets and the Redondos of the world. But injuries, schedule congestion, I can see him increasing his minutes there, and very similar to like a Yannick Bright sort of emergence where you don't expect him to, but because you have so many things moving, he just comes in and maybe he has a good season and just gets it's just stuck in there, kind of like Yannick Bright was. But I think he has a lot more hurdles to jump over. I was gonna pick Yannick Bright, but I felt like he was already kind of broken out. Like I saw him and I was like, I feel like that's not a big bold pick because he was I do think like if they had like rookie of the year instead of young player of the year, I would have considered him for that because he was so good. But yeah, I'm gonna back David Ruiz this year. And was I right? Was one of you not a big David Ruiz guy?
No, we're both pretty big on David Ruiz.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's very technical. He's very good with the ball. Plays solid defense, very hustle.
Yeah, he has a little Toto Aviles in him also. He's a little
good.
He's a pit bull.
All right, good. Well, that makes me feel good then. I was afraid I was going to upset somebody, so I'm glad I
No, no,
didn't.
no. We call him Baby Sergio Ramos.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, well, guys, we're nearing towards the end here, but there's always questions around every team going into the new season, and I want to ask you guys, what's the one question you still have for Inter Miami going into 2025?
The one
Um,
question, I guess, while Danny thinks about it, the one question is, are we going to win trophies? Like plural, you know? I feel like it's unacceptable just to walk away with one. At this point, with the opportunities that we're going to be able to have. And this year, I feel like it's been the best year in terms of like free agency so far. I think that we have the capability to do so. I think that that's the question. What's acceptable?
for me is I still question, and I know this is gonna sound kind of crazy, right? Because we have Messi and Suarez, but I still question the attack because if Messi and Suarez are either injured or they have an off night, where's the attack coming from? Because I don't know if I believe in Fafa producing. We don't have that backup striker yet. Gressel, although he could play a good ball in, he's not necessarily creating for himself. I
There's no
think that
Campana waiting for the header either.
right. So I think that although not a lot of people are talking about the attack because you just assume Messi and Suarez are going to play all 60 plus games and all competitions, I think that they might not, and I'm not sure how the offense is going to look or the attack is going to look with those two not there,
Yeah.
especially under Mascherano. It looks like we're going to be playing two lines of four, with a little more defensive minded. I'm not sure where the attack's going to come, so that's my question. I'm curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I didn't repeat on my breakout player. I'm repeating my question from last year, and I'm not sorry about it. This group is another year older. They've got even more games than they did last year.
Mm.
And the travel, I think, I don't know if I saw it or I just imagined it, but I think the travel is equal, if not worse than it was last year.
Well,
And
they're
if
not going to
MLS,
Vancouver for
they're
sure.
not going
So
to
at least
Vancouver,
that's
so
better.
that's a start. But if MLS is playing through these international breaks, which they tend to do,
They're not
and
this
you
year.
no,
Mm-mm.
oh, I thought that was next year. I thought it was the 2026 World
No,
Cup they were
no,
breaking off for.
no. This year, they're not playing through any inter. Now they're gonna have to make up games, and I'm
Right.
assuming those will be placed during the international breaks. But I double check just because I want to see how many games Messi was gonna miss based off of
Yeah.
international break, and at least Miami isn't scheduled during those. Now,
Gotcha.
I don't know if maybe they just purposely gave Miami a bye week or something, but
Sure.
yeah.
Okay,
So
that's so I had thought that they were going to play through the Club World Cup because I thought I saw something that was like a really big issue about playing through the Club World Cup, which
Yeah.
again could be the reason why you don't see any of your games because you guys are taking part in that.
yeah,
But listen, at the end of the day, like you said, if you're not playing through there, that means you're going to have Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, which means you're going to have a lot of congestion, going to do a lot of rotation. If you get all these injuries, what does the team look like? Can they survive not playing with all of their big stars? And will Mascherano be able to be up to the task of what Tata Martino did in taking a group without those star players and making them play really well? So
Yeah.
I'm really interested to see that. So listen, I know we are running a little short on time, so we'll just jump right into it, guys. It's time for a predicted finish. Where are we at?
I'll start. We're gonna win the Champions Cup, just because they've laid it out for us to do so. We ended up in the only
I
side of the
agree with
bracket
that.
that have literally only MLS teams, and then the one Cavalier Jamaican team. That's it. Like that's our side of the bracket. We don't have a Mexican team until the semifinal if we make it that far, which I would hope we do. So I think that we'll win the Champions Cup and the MLS Cup, and I think that those will be the two trophies, and I think everybody will be happy with those two trophies, and that's my prediction.
I also agree with that. I think we're going to get the Champions Cup, the MLS Cup, and I feel like we're going to be sitting in the bottom half of
Ooh,
the Eastern Conference. We're not going to be sitting in the
really?
top half.
Oh,
I
okay.
feel like I feel like the team is probably going to. I mean, I hope we sit in the top half. Number one, I want to go to playoff games, but I feel like we're not going to be at the top just based on the simple fact that I don't think that this team is going to be. I mean, they're always going to strive to do the best that they can, right? But at the same time, they want to conserve a lot of these older players. And I feel like maybe with the influx of newer, younger players coming in, I feel like Mascherano will feel comfortable with playing those guys, especially since his experience has always been with playing, coaching younger players. So I feel like that's what's going to happen. And we'll probably be sitting in the second half, but I feel the same with the same trophies. Maybe the League's Cup too. Let's get greedy, right?
I like it. I like
Yeah.
that. And again, a mark of a team that's like you if you have this sort of you can't go into a season with this roster and these big name
Yes.
players and be like maybe we'll make the playoffs, maybe we'll make a deep run in a cup. Like that's just not the way it works.
Absolutely not.
I am not going to be silly. Last year, I think I left them out of the postseason. I'm not going to do that again this year. I'm
Did
not
you?
that
I
dumb.
don't
I
remember
did.
that.
I did. I definitely
Wow.
did because I was not sold on them surviving without Messi Suarez. I was like, there's no way.
And they
And
did. They
and they did.
thrived.
Well, and that was the thing when I was reviewing this whole thing, we did kind of like our look back on our predictions, and we were like, all right, explain yourself basically. And I remember I
Yeah.
was like, I asked the question. I was like, or I made a bold prediction. It was like, they're not going to play more than 20 games, the four of them, Busquets, Alba, Messi, Suarez. And they didn't. But what they
Yeah.
did do was take that entire bench in U22s and turn them into stars. That I
Mm.
was not predicting. So now that I know what we're playing with here, um, I'm not leaving them out of the postseason, but there's schedule congestion. They've got less depth than they did last year. And I'm not thrilled on Mascherano as much as maybe some others are. I'm going to say that the back-to-back Shields is unlikely, but I think they'll probably be between 3 and 6, like bottom end of the top of the home
I can see
playoff,
that.
and then or top end of the not the traveling for it. So I have them kind of middle of the playoff group.
The East has gotten weaker though.
It
Cucho's gone.
has, it
Ramirez is
has.
gone. Lucho Acosta is going to be leaving, and those have been the top three teams, right? Cincy,
Mhm.
Columbus, and Miami. So I feel like those two will fall off. I think Atlanta's a little overrated. Everybody's really hyped up about Rafa.
Orlando's fallen off.
Orlando, they lost Facundo. I feel like a lot of teams have lost a lot, and outside of Charlotte, who has really like gained a lot, that I would say make a big like impact.
Are we
I think
Cleveland.
disrespecting? Are we disrespecting Chupo Moting on a DP contract? That's crazy.
you,
Yeah.
how did you
Atlanta
feel
has
about
gotten
that?
better.
No, I'm not upset with the signing. I'm upset with
The money.
the money. Like I don't think he's a
Yeah.
DP. But
And
that's
how do you say his name again?
Chupo
Chupa what?
Moting.
Moting.
Chupo
There you
Moting. Yeah.
go. Moting.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The money was wild.
yeah, I don't know, but that's a different
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah, yeah.
We won't dive too much into that. But listen, it's going to be another big year for them. It's something that I think a lot of us are watching because they have so many different titles they can win, and I'm really really excited to see it. But I wanted to thank you guys so much for coming on, and being really flexible with the time. I know it got kind of crazy there, but I want to give you guys a minute to share your links and tell people where to find you.
Well,
Sure. Go ahead.
before you do, Danny, just so you know, Andrew, uh, quick answer to why we were successful without Messi and all these other guys. Gressel. That's why.
That's
Well, you know
fair.
what? And that's not even an exaggeration.
Yeah.
Gressel played
Gressel. Just one
phenomenal in
word.
the summertime, and we were calling him the German
The
James,
Hamas. Yep.
the German James, and he had what was it 7 goal contributions in like 7 games in a row? Like it was
Yes.
wild.
Dude's a
So
baller.
yeah.
Go ahead, Danny.
So we do the Battered Herons. We go on 4 to 5 times a week, sometimes even 6 times. This season it's gonna be pretty crazy because we're playing games. I feel like every 3 or 4 days, every season. So we come on 3, 4, 5 times a week, sometimes 6. We also do Las Garzas, which is basically herons in Spanish, and we do that every Monday night at 10 o'clock. And we've also started the MLS show. Andrew, you've been a part of it. The
Oh, it's
Battered MLS
wonderful. It's
fans.
so good.
Yeah, so we get a panel of podcasters. We join and we just have a round table conversation about the weekend and it's just a fun time. So that's what we got going on. So Battered Herons on Twitter. And Chris is K. Well, you could tell him where they can
K
find
Battered
you.
Herons. Yep.
And I'm Battered fan, and then the Battered MLS fans, and Las Garzas. So that's what we do, and we love what we do. We love talking with Andrew. We love talking with everybody. So come around and have just a good time.
And check out the merch. Right? Miami versus
Battered.
everybody here. You can get the same shirt, batteredfans.com.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I wasn't gonna promote everything, but yeah, we do have that, and we also have a Believe shirt for just about every MLS team. So go ahead, they're all themed, and yeah, if you believe in your team, which I'm sure Andrew does, because I mean they're defending Eastern champs. I'm sure, you know,
I
you'll like the
am
shirt.
I'm really glad you did plug that because I did not know they existed and I need one. I was just thinking like, man, that shirt is sick. I don't know where you got it,
Yeah,
but if you got Red Bull theme, I
yeah,
got
yeah.
I got I got some
BatteredHerons.com.
I got some money I gotta spend, I think. But guys, thanks so much for being here. We really enjoyed it, and I hope all of our listeners did too. And we will see everybody on the next episode of Not So Deep Dives on the Designated Players and MLS podcast. See ya.